On December 7, 1999, Mary Smith was walking her dog Cody when she noticed a couple burying something among the rocks along Lake Ontario at Colonel Samuel Smith Park. She thought it was drugs. As she walked closer, the couple decided to leave. She had a brief exchange of hello while they walked past her. Mary was curious. Once the couple was no longer seen, she went over to the rocks to find the bag that the couple were trying to conceal. When Mary looked inside the double-bagged green garbage bag, there was a hand and forearm. She dropped the bag and ran for help. Rolf Prisor, who at the time worked in the homicide squad, got a call. He said he was told about body parts being found in the park, but what he discovered when he arrived on the scene shocked him. Something that haunts him to this day. The body parts were that of a child. They appear to be those of a child between the ages of 4 to 12, said Prisor, talking about the case in an interview with Global News. And there are indications the body parts were obviously dismembered, and it appears they were done with some precision. Police discovered more bags and more remains, they found, a total of 5 bags. But there wasn't enough to identify the young victim. There was no surveillance footage in the area and no child reported missing. A month passed. The police had no suspects and no leads. Investigators realized they must try something different. In the hope of generating a lead from the public, they held a press conference, and Ontario's Deputy Chief Coroner Jim Cairns revealed a sickening image, an X-ray of a child's severed forearm. There was an indescribable feeling going through the assembled media. It was shocking, and it still is. Cairns said DNA testing showed the limb was from a girl who was between 4 and 6 years of age and likely of South Asian descent. He then read a list of countries considered to be South Asian, including India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. On that very day at 2nd Street Elementary School, not far from Colonel Samuel Smith Park, kindergarten teacher Heather Cartwright heard the news. Coincidentally, a pair of police officers were at the school on an unrelated matter. She told them about one of her young students who recently returned to Pakistan with her family to look after her, their sick grandmother. The student was 5-year-old Farah Khan. Cartwright kept some of the girl's things, including a crucial finger painting. It was the break police needed. The prints that were found on the artwork matched the fingerprints of the remains, specifically the left middle finger, said Prisor. Within a week, on January 19th, police arrested and charged Farah's father Mohammed Khan, 36, and stepmother Kaniz Fatima, 45, for murder of Farah at their new basement apartment on 169 Graysdale Boulevard in North York. With the pair in custody at a local police station, Prisor and his team had a problem. News media were camped outside, so Prisor had to think quickly. He decided to dress up a pair of police officers as the suspects and taking them away in a car in full view of the cameras. It worked. Police wanted the media gone so no one was watching when they took Mohammed to another park far north of the waterfront. There, Mohammed led police down a steep embankment to a wooded area where he had placed Farah's head under a rock. He had brought her dismembered head in his knapsack, travelling on a city bus. With Farah's identity now published in news reports, a terrible realization went through Omar Farouk, president of the International Muslims Association in Rexdale. Farah had been to the mosque with her father and stepmother many times. Members remembered seeing them there. The association arranged for Farah's birth mother, Shahida Jabeen, to come to Canada for Farah's funeral. Jabeen had given up custody of Farah. It has been said that Jabeen didn't know where her daughter was living at the time. Online articles suggest that Jabeen had no contact with her daughter. When she met with Farah's teacher, she asked what her daughter's voice sounded like.
We took both Khan and Fatima down to 22 Division. Conducted our interviews during the course of the day. And during the course of the interview with Mohammed Khan, he proffered what had happened to Farah.
She had problems for 10 years. She's had the sickness. She had problems earlier on with her sickness.
And basically said that he and Kaniz had gone out to the grocery store. And then upon their arrival home, they found Farah on the floor and she had cut her throat. We conducted approximately about a 4-hour interview, and Khan agreed to show us where he had planted Farah's torso.
But you had a problem.
We had a problem.
I was outside.
You were outside, amongst
many
number,
others.
Yeah, a multitude of media.
Is that him?
Prizer decides on a ruse. 2 detectives dress up as the suspects and get into a car. As it drives away, we in the media follow.
And that video, which we played over and over, of what we thought were suspects in the back of cars, were actually police officers.
They were. And I apologized, to the media afterwards, but that was the only way for us to do that, Alan.
Prizer and the rest of his team go with Farah's father back to Colonel Samuel Smith Park.
That just around a rise in the ground, there's a rock, and that's where the spot is. I think it's around here somewhere. Hold on.
Yeah, just hold on. Hold on, just hold on. Hold on. No, hold on.
We're in Colonel Samuel Smith Park at Lake Ontario in 21 Division. And it is still Wednesday, January 19th, 2000. He's indicated that these particular rocks over here to my left are where his wife was sitting as he deposited the torso remains of Farah Khan in a deep crevice in this particular rock platform. Against my rear and left, which is somewhat west of this rock that's dropping, there's a large antenna. I would estimate possibly 60, 75 feet tall. It's directly to the south and east of that particular antenna, and he is certain this is the one.
He says he's sure it's this one because he remembers the rocks, big rocks nearby here.
Then, Farah's father takes police to another location, north of the waterfront.
Where, during the course of the interview with him, he had indicated that he had buried Farah's head in the ravine. He was further detailed enough to say that he had actually placed her head in the knapsack, gotten on a TTC bus, and taken it up there, and buried it beneath a rock face down. He pointed out the rock on the ground, and there was Farah's head.
Yesterday, near the Humber River, less than 20 kilometers from Samuel Smith Park, police found the little girl's head. An autopsy was performed this afternoon.
A woman he met for the first time on the day they were wed. They moved into his parents' home. Soon, his wife was pregnant. And almost as soon, Khan began accusing her of infidelity and claiming the child was not his. Within 4 months, the couple had separated. On February 4, 1994, the girl who would become known as Farah Khan was born. Khan and his wife were granted a divorce in the summer of 1994, and though he had made no inquiries about his child nor visited her since his separation, he was awarded custody of Farah by village elders. Shahida Jabin never saw her daughter again. In 1997, Khan was introduced to Kaniz Fatima, a woman 10 years older who had been living in Canada, had acquired citizenship, been married and divorced, and had returned to Pakistan. After Khan and Fatima married, she returned to Canada and arranged to sponsor the immigration of her new husband and stepdaughter. As part of the process, medical examinations were required. In November 1998, Farah Khan was pronounced a healthy 4-year-old, and on April 20th, 1999, she arrived in Canada. Just 7.5 months later, Farah Khan was killed. The family lived in a small apartment on 135 8th Street, Etobicoke. Many of the neighbours didn't know the couple had a child. They were extremely quiet and kept to themselves. Funeral arrangements were being made for Farah. Although her toro was still missing, it was important to lay her to rest. Initially, there was a dispute between Khan, who had custody of the child, and Jabin over where the child would be buried. Khan wanted her buried in Pakistan, but Jabin wanted her buried in Canada. Police say Mr. Khan has the legal right to decide her funeral arrangements. One Markham city councillor says the body should be buried here, according to Islamic religious practice. When the body goes all that distance, chemicals have to be applied, embalming done, etc. All that is not part of our religion. It's against our religion, Councillor Khalid Usman said. The coroner's office is also displeased. It wants the body buried here in case more forensic tests are required. After much convincing, Khan agreed, and the funeral took place on February 18, 2000. Over 1,000 people came to pay their respects that frigid winter day. Farah is buried at Beechwood Cemetery in Vaughan. Her gravestone, donated by the cemetery, it's just a small and simple plaque with the words, "In memory of Farah Khan." Farah's mother was physically supported as she attends her daughter's funeral. Janib came to my house and met my family. We had a hard time actually speaking to her because she was in such despair, remembers Usman. She was jolted by this tragedy. Farah was remembered by her kindergarten teacher Heather Cartwright as a quiet, sweet girl who was soft-spoken. The principal of the school, Karen Sitarek, said, "I can reassure you that she was well-adjusted and she attended school on a regular basis. She participated in all aspects of the program," Sitarek said. Farah wasn't a problem child. We learned Farah missed 5 days of school from September to November. December 2nd was Farah's last day at school. Jabin thanked the people of Toronto for her support and kindness before she left for Pakistan in March 2000.
Months after she discovered the body parts of a child, Mary Smith comes to court to see the couple accused of killing Farah Khan. Uncomfortable with showing her face, Smith speaks to the media for the first time.
How have the last couple of months been for you since December 7th?
Horrifying, absolutely horrifying. I can't believe it. You know, I can't sleep. I go see a psychiatrist. I mean, a lot of things have been happening. My life has totally changed with this, you know.
More months pass before the preliminary hearing starts. Then years of delays until the trial. It's now 2004, 5 years since Farah's murder.
We needed interpreters that were court certified to translate these statements that we had taken from various individuals.
But a lot of the information they gathered would be inadmissible.
We had Mohammed Khan attending a butcher shop on numerous occasions, watching how meat was cut. We had information that the motive for the crime might have been an insurance policy in Pakistan. While Khan was in jail, he made friends with a cellmate, which added a whole other dynamic to the investigation. Mr. X, as he became known. So we had many, many intercepts between Khan and Mr. X that some of them were allowed in evidence. And again, it was that insurance information that kept coming up. The fact that Khan viewed Farah as a bastard child, that he didn't believe she was his daughter.
That question of motive, it bothered Preiser.
The first story was that Farah didn't want to go to school. She didn't want to go out with them. She wanted to watch cartoons. So they had to go to the grocery store on one occasion, and they left her alone at home. And then when they arrived at home, they found her on the floor with a knife beside her after having cut her own throat. That was the first story.
But Khan's defense team now presents a new story.
We're not taking any issue that he caused the death of his daughter. Our point is he didn't mean
to cause her death, and he also will be accepting responsibility for having dismembered her.
Dropping the story that Farah had somehow killed herself.
She was mischievous. He had to discipline her, and that, you know, it was an accident, that he didn't mean to kill her, and that he couldn't explain, because he was a newcomer to Canada, how she would have died. So they decided that they would just bury her, cut her up and bury her, because if they told the truth, nobody would believe them. So that was another version of events. Fatima's version was that she did nothing, that Khan came home, he was angry with the child because she was stealing cookies, and that he virtually beat her and then stomped on her chest, and then she died. And that they had no other recourse but to cut her up in the bathroom and then place her body parts in garbage bags and bury them.
And then they take that to trial, and the jury says,
no. They don't believe that at all. There's too many versions, too many stories. The precision cutting of the body parts. As I said, they didn't know about the insurance, but they just believed that because he felt she was a bastard child, that was his motivation for killing her.
And that's murder in the first degree.
That's murder in the first.
This jury has heard a lot of evidence. It's been a challenging 2.5 months for them, and we're very gratified by their efforts and by the result they've reached.
Obviously, Mr. Khan is disappointed in the verdict. We've met with him. He will be instructing counsel to appeal. We have nothing further to say. Thank you.
In some way has given to justice for Farah in ways that we could not have otherwise done. The difficulty, you know, is that we were never able to really ascertain what part Kaniz played in this. She obviously didn't do enough to stop it. But there was evidence of bruising, 30-odd bruises. You know, slippers were used, hairbrushes were used, a rolling pin was used to beat Farah. Khan worked every day. So, you know, one could speculate that not all these bruises were as a result of Mohammed Khan. But in the manner in which the verdicts came down, I think, yes, it was appropriate that he be found guilty of first and she of second.
Mohammed Khan remains in custody. Kaniz Fatima is out on parole. We contacted Corrections Canada, but they would provide no further information about their whereabouts.
will he ever get out?
He will never get out. No. No, he'll be locked up for the rest of his life.
As for Shahida Jabin, Farah's birth mother, after the funeral, she went back to Pakistan. Officials in Canada worked to get her immigration papers, and she moved back to Canada not long after. She now resides in the Greater Toronto area.
It places us in the position where we as community leaders, we had to be more responsible in the sense that, that we had to do whatever it takes for something like this not to happen again.
She only lived to 5.
Yes.
But what do you know about Farah's life? What kind of girl she was, or what do you imagine she was like?
From the information that we had been able to obtain from some of her, the parents of children that she attended school with, she was a very sweet child. You know, she would often go and have lunch at some of the other kids' homes. She was never a difficult student in school at all. She was quiet, you know, and sort of unassuming. Very pretty little girl. By all accounts, Farah was a wonderful little child. I don't believe that we ever, prior to Farah Khan, had a case that involved the dismembered body parts of a child. And I think the citizens of Toronto, when this came out, it really impacted them. There's a sense of relief that we were able to identify Farah, and we were able to arrest those responsible for her murder. And in some small way, honor her memory. Because, you know, for homicide investigators, when we're doing an investigation, we speak for those that can't speak anymore. And it's very important for us to be able to solve an investigation, and especially one as horrific as this one was, involving an innocent child who, for no reason unimaginable, was brutally beaten, killed, and dismembered by her own father. I can't even imagine that.
When I talked to you earlier this summer, I mean, you knew when Farah's birthday was.
Yes, yes. She was born on February the 4th.
But you just know that off the top of your head.
I do.
You've never forgotten it.
I celebrate her milestone birthdays, just like personally, you know. So, I mean, during the trial, she would have turned 10. Her 19th birthday, you know, just out of thought, and 21st and 25th. It's a case we'll never forget. So the impact is lasting until our last days. It'll always be there.